American Pickers Mike Wolfe spends $25,000 on rare Vespas. American Pickers star Mike Wolfe loves finding a good deal on some classic antiques. While a lot of fans think that Mike and his team have been lowballing sellers lately, there are cases where Mike pays what something is worth to him. That happened in a recent clip where he found a pair of classic Vespas. Here's what you need to know about Wolfe's latest purchase. Mike Wolfe buys two classic Vespas. In a recent American Pickers clip, Mike Wolfe, 60, was visiting a man known as the Godfather of Vespa. Mike was talking to Victor Vespa, and the collector took him to see two vintage Vespas. Victor used to own one of the biggest Vespa shops and still collects the mopeds. As far as I'm concerned, Victor Vespa is like the godfather of Vespa. The guy's a pioneer. He's a legend, Mike said in the clip. After arriving, Victor took Mike to his Vespa junkyard, which was full of 70 rusty Vestas. He said this was where he found parts for fixing up other Vespas, since you couldn't order parts for them in the 80s and 90s. Victor said each of the carcasses is worth about $75 each. Mike then asked if he had any complete scooters on the property. That is when he headed into the workshop, and Mike saw two vintage models that really caught his attention. These two models were a 1952 Ferro Basso Vespa and a very, very rare 1948 model. The latter model had its original paint and toolkit. Mike said this model is rare in its home country of Italy, much less in the United States. Victor said he owned it since 1994 and was fond of it. American Pickers fans react to Mike Wolfe's purchase. Mike wanted the Vespas and asked how much it would cost to buy it from him. Victor said he would sell it for $20,000, which he said was a fair number. Mike agreed, and he had no intention of lowballing Victor. Instead, he made a counteroffer to buy the 1948 and 1952 models for $25,000. Victor's wife told him to take the deal and lighten the load. Once Victor agreed, Mike was more than happy, saying, "Oh my gosh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Love it. Love it." The American Pickers fans swept into the comments on Facebook. That's crazy. Are they worth that kind of money? A lot of people buy the Vespa because they don't break down as much as the Lambretta. Mike Wolfe, the legendary treasure hunter from American Pickers, is no stranger to uncovering rare finds hidden in barns, sheds, and forgotten corners of America. But this time, he's taken his love for vintage two-wheelers to a new level, making headlines by dropping a cool $25,000 on a collection of rare Vespas that had been collecting dust for decades. It all started with a lead that seemed almost too good to be true. A mysterious collector on the outskirts of a small town in Indiana claimed to have a trove of classic scooters tucked away in an old storage facility. For someone like Mike, whose love for motorcycles is as well known as his passion for Americana, the word Vespa immediately set his heart racing. Vespas are iconic, man. They're not just scooters, they're a symbol of freedom, design, and that effortless cool that defined an era. Mike had set on his way to the location, eyes gleaming with excitement. This wasn't just another picking trip. It was a rare opportunity to get his hands on machines that had become legends in their own right. When Mike and his trusty companion, Danielle Colby, arrived at the nondescript facility, the place seemed like nothing special from the outside. Just another rundown building in a forgotten corner of America. But as seasoned pickers know, appearances can be deceiving. The moment the door slid open, revealing a glimpse of what lay inside, Mike's jaw practically hit the floor. Before them sat a lineup of pristine, untouched Vespas, their vibrant paintwork preserved beneath layers of dust. Each one was a piece of art in its own right, from the sleek curves of the bodies to the chrome handlebars gleaming in the low light. There was a 1958 Vespa GS 150, the holy grail of scooters for collectors. It was flanked by a 1963 Vespa 90SS and a 1949 Vespa 125, one of the first production models ever made. For a moment, Mike was silent, his eyes wide, taking in the sheer beauty of what was before him. "These are unbelievable," Mike finally whispered, stepping closer to examine the scooters. "It's like walking into a time capsule." The collector, an older gentleman named Pete who had inherited the collection from his father, was happy to see someone who could truly appreciate the history and craftsmanship of the Vespas. "My dad was obsessed with these things. He bought them new back in the day and kept them in the best condition. He always told me they'd be worth something someday," Pete said with a chuckle, though there was a hint of nostalgia in his voice. Mike couldn't believe what he was hearing. Vespas in this condition, from these years, were virtually impossible to find in the United States, let alone a whole collection of them. He knew he had to act fast. The market for vintage scooters had been heating up over the past few years, with collectors and enthusiasts willing to pay top dollar for original, unmodified models. Mike had seen prices soar for scooters that weren't nearly as rare or well-preserved as these. After some negotiations, which involved Mike working his usual charm and deep knowledge of vintage motorcycles, he struck a deal with Pete. For $25,000, Mike was walking away with not just a few rare Vespas, but an entire collection that spanned decades of history. The real magic, however, would come when Mike and Danielle began the painstaking process of cleaning and restoring the scooters. Each Vespa had a story to tell, and Mike was determined to uncover every detail. The 1958 GS 150, for example, was once considered the fastest scooter in the world, a model designed for long-distance touring with a sleek, aerodynamic body that screamed speed and style. The Vespa 90SS, on the other hand, was a favorite among racers in the 1960s due to its lightweight frame and high-performance engine. As Mike worked on bringing the Vespas back to life, he couldn't help but feel a deep connection to the era they represented. These scooters are a reminder of a simpler time when getting on the road, even on two wheels, felt like freedom. They're symbols of youth, rebellion, and the joy of exploration, he mused, his hands carefully polishing the chrome on the 1949 Vespa 125, a model that had seen the dawn of the scooter craze post-World War II. While most people might view Vespas as simple transportation, for Mike, they were much more. They were mechanical works of art, each one with a personality and a soul. The craftsmanship that went into building them, the attention to detail, and the cultural impact they had, especially in the 1950s and 1960s, made them invaluable. The sleek lines, the compact yet elegant design, and the enduring functionality all spoke to a bygone era of design excellence. News of Mike's $25,000 Vespa haul quickly spread among the collecting community, and soon other enthusiasts and collectors were reaching out, eager to see what he had found. Mike, always one to share his passion for preservation, decided to document the restoration process on social media, allowing fans to watch as each Vespa was carefully cleaned, repaired, and brought back to its former glory. "I want people to see that these aren't just scooters. They're pieces of history," Mike explained in one of his posts. "Each Vespa tells a story about the people who rode them, the places they went, and the culture they were part of." In the end, the $25,000 Mike spent wasn't just an investment in rare Vespas. It was an investment in preserving a part of history that might have otherwise been forgotten. As the Vespas rolled out of his workshop, gleaming like they had just come off the factory floor, Mike couldn't help but smile. Once again, he had proven that with a keen eye and a passion for history, treasures are always waiting to be discovered. And for Mike Wolfe, the thrill of the pick is never about the money. It's about the stories, the history, and the love of finding something beautiful and forgotten, and giving it a second life. The rare Vespas were just another chapter in his long career of celebrating America's hidden gems.